Hello and welcome to Unbox The Podcast. I'm your host, Sahar Huneidi-Palmer, and today we're going to dive deeply into a personal and transformative topic, which is the stories we inherit from our ancestors, and also, more importantly, how they tie in to the foundational role that our body plays in our own transformation. But first, I must apologize for the slight delay in releasing this episode. Yesterday was a walk your talk day for me. I spent the entire day undergoing health checkups and it took a lot longer than planned. And as we step into the new year, I wanted to ensure that I was giving my body the care and the attention that it deserved. These checkups were entirely routine, and they are a reminder of how much our bodies carry, not just physically, but emotionally and even ancestrally. So I'm really sorry for the delay. It really could not be helped. However, it's fitting that today's episode is going to explore this connection. Let us begin by talking about ancestral stories and our body. There is a simple truth that our bodies are living archives of our ancestral stories. They hold not only the genetic blueprint that's passed down from generation to generation from our parents and grandparents, but they also carry the subtle imprint of their experiences. For example, when I meet a client for the first time, I look at their date of birth and I do a little bit of numerology analysis to understand vibrationally what is their consciousness about, what is it that they came to do in life. And even through numerology, you can see the vibes that we've inherited from parents and grandparents. In the same way, these stories are inherited and they manifest in surprising ways through our health, through our behaviors, through recurring challenges that we keep facing. It's really the patterns that we repeat, and sometimes it's no fault of our own. For me, this became glaringly obvious during my checkups. I was suddenly kind of struck of how much I loved both of my parents, so much so that I've developed diabetes like my father had developed in his old age, and I've developed high blood pressure like my mother did in her 60s, and I realized, oh my God, is that my body's way of honoring them? And I thought, no, this has to stop. This realization hit me deeply. It was a mix of awe and interconnectedness with our family and a sense of responsibility or taking on the challenge to break these cycles. And it is something that I had been working on for a while, and things are getting better measurably. So I'm really excited about having uncovered this theme or this ancestral inheritance, if you like. This summer, I purchased a book about our family history from my cousin, who had been working and compiling and authenticating the information for the last 15 years. Reading all the stories across the generations was really fascinating and awe-inspiring. It's how my paternal family dealt with their life journey over generations. When you go back a few generations, you can see recurring themes in their stories, having to interrupt what they're doing, forced migration, restarting again. It was certainly marked by diaspora and forced migration, but what amazed me is how they dealt with it, how they pivoted almost immediately, picked up a new thread, thrived in it despite the sorrow. It was an undeniable thread of resilience, purposeful living. The women, for example, who left their country when they were really young and single, they didn't get married. Instead, they focused on in today's language, you might say on leaving an impact on the new generation, but really their focus was on supporting the next generation through education. So a lot of them volunteered in charitable organizations. Many of them became teachers and focused on establishing, again, organizations that can educate all these refugees and the children that were distraught by the diaspora. Education is a value that runs deep in our family. You might say an inheritance or a legacy that your father would leave you would be to educate you well rather than to leave money in the bank. The men ventured far and wide to wherever they could earn a living. Very often, they broke into uncharted fields. Some achieved remarkable feats, from competing in sports championships, even the Olympics, to working as scientists at NASA. Doctors, media people, they started TV stations, radio stations in various countries, which was back then really not what you did right away. Even they had pioneering roles, like the first women in an army, the first football coach in the country, and so on. Their stories of venturing into uncharted territories have become a source of inspiration for me. I realized that maybe this is the theme that I was playing out in my life journey, which is the resilience and the drive to explore uncharted paths. It may have been rooted in their legacy. Certainly leaving civil engineering and marketing and branding and going into psychic development and becoming one of the world's best 100 psychic was not in the cards for me when I started my life, my adult life. You're wondering about my maternal family? Well, that's a different story for another day. It's equally awe-inspiring. Now, let's reflect for a moment on what health patterns, for example, behaviors, beliefs, you might have inherited from your own family. Not just your parents, but look 2 or 3 generations back. How does this influence the choices you make today? How did it form the core values that you hold dear to you today? Because core values are also the gem or the center of what we value most in our lives, what we value doing or achieving in our lives, and therefore they become our drivers. Let's talk about the body as a foundation for transformation. In the Unbox methodology, we talk about the 4 dimensions of change, which are body, emotions, mind, and accountability. Today, we're focusing on the body as a foundation for transformation. Why? Because it is through the body that we experience life. It is the vessel for our emotions, expression, our voice, the processor of our thoughts, and the executor of our actions. When we ignore our bodies, it's kind of like you're ignoring the upkeep and maintenance of your car. Then things go wrong. It's through neglect, poor habits, failing to listen to the signals, we gradually disconnect with our body, and the body begins to suffer health-wise. And also stored memories such as traumas or bad experiences, negative experiences, if you will, that we didn't have time to process. They get stored in your physical body. Think about it, when you're really scared, you kind of like, you go like that. And with that breath, the memory, the fear, the trauma gets stored physically, sometimes in muscles, sometimes in organs. But when we nurture and align our bodies, we create a stable foundation for holistic growth. For example, when I get invited to join my girlfriends or my family or to go somewhere, my body feels heavy. It doesn't want to move. It just wants to stay at home, lie down on a sofa and read a book, and then I do that. Sometimes I feel super energetic. My body wants to go out, wants to go to the beach, or wants to go for a walk, or whatever it is. I listen to my body. It's so important to honor what your body wants to do, how it wants to unwind, and it's important to feel responsible to you having to recharge it, because your body has, as I said, a different energy from yours. It's kind of like the car. It has its own mechanics, and you have to keep it well maintained in order to perform well. So here are 3 practical strategies or insights into connecting with your body. The body has a rhythm, so you need to rest and recharge. Make rest a priority, whether through quality sleep, moments of stillness during the day, whatever it is that you need, but factor it in your day. Number 2, move with intention. I remember teaching my mom and my aunt that with every step they make to focus on pressing down on the heel, sole, toe, heel, sole, toe. it helps to anchor you, be aware of where you're walking, how you're walking, what's the posture of your body. Are you stretching? Are you going for a stroll? Is it a brisk walk? Or any movement basically is nurturing, but become aware of how your body moves. I remember times when I was in the corporate world, I'd walk around so rushed that my head is almost a foot in front of my body. That's not good, guys. So just become aware and move intentionally and nurture your body through movement, dance, sport, whatever pleases your body. And finally, listen and respond. Pay attention to the signals, the hunger, the fatigue that you feel, the emotional reactions that you express kind of in spite of yourself. This is all indications of memory that is not processed, that is stored in your body. Apart from hormones and so on, being triggered like by hunger or whatever, I'm talking about like suddenly an outburst of emotions or sudden anger or sudden, not necessarily sudden, but repeated aches and pains within the body. I remember, for example, when my father passed away, my right shoulder hurt for no reason, and it kept hurting at the same time every year for 3 years. And this is when I noticed the pattern, and I thought, oh my God, what is going on? Any signals by the body, listen to them and honor them. Food that you don't feel like you want to eat anymore. Notice how your taste or the flavors that you enjoy change also over time. This is an indication of what the body needs in order to regulate itself, if you like. So, how do we reframe ancestral narratives? Because you've got them, whether you like it or not. These narratives are not set in stone. Think of it as a vibrational theme, as a potential, as something that you carry that needs to be either integrated or processed. But we have the power to acknowledge them. And I think the first step of holistic healing, if you will, or holistic therapy is to acknowledge what you're feeling, to acknowledge the facts. Our brains are so afraid of facing the truth because it's threatening. But when you face it, the fear disappears and then your brain begins to think in a different way. So you have the power to acknowledge them. That's the first step. And then you can reframe them, creating a new legacy. For example, start by identifying the inherited stories. Mine is sudden move, shift, forced migration, forced end of something and starting something else. It's like a recurring theme over generations. Reflect on key narratives that have passed down in your family. For instance, were you told that we are a family of hard workers? Or perhaps our family has always struggled? Or even our family has never done that? Such things are ancestral themes. The other thing you can do is to reframe the limiting narrative. Choose one story, for example, that feels really limiting, and ask yourself, how can I rewrite this narrative to empower myself? For example, instead of our family always struggled, reframe it as my family has faced challenges and I am building on their resilience to thrive. And finally, create a new legacy. Decide what stories you want to pass down to the new generation or to generations that follow. How can you embody this new narrative and live it out in your daily life? For me, at this point in my life, I would like to leave something behind that helps the younger people whenever they need it. And this is why I've been focusing on YouTube and on the podcasts so that they're available and people can watch or listen to them whenever they want to help them find inspiration and rebuild their lives, really. To have some kind of an advice available that they can readily use. I also wanted to leave all that journey of demystifying the enigmatic, which is really my books. So for me, it's about leaving something behind that can impact, ease, add more, whether it's knowledge or experience, to the next generation. So for me, rewriting my story on the health front means breaking those health patterns. I've been consistently working with my diet, with alternative therapies that can help, and as I've mentioned, they've really yielded tangible results. Rewriting the narrative means taking proactive steps to nurture. For me, it's my body. For you, it's to nurture whatever was limiting, to change it into something that can be inspiring, at least to nurture your growth. For me, rewriting my story as far as my health is concerned meant breaking the health patterns that I've inherited while honoring the love and the closeness that I shared with my parents. It means taking proactive steps to nurture my body and to live with intention. Our ancestor stories are gifts, even if they are challenging. They remind us of where we come from and offer us a chance to change where we choose to go. By understanding and reframing these narratives, we can honor the past while stepping into our own power and creating a brighter future. So, I ask you again, what inherited story are you ready to rewrite today? Reflect on that, take a small step, and remember that your body is the foundation for all the transformation. It is through caring that you create the energy and the alignment needed not only to rewrite your story, but to live the life that you're meant to live and to be authentic. Thank you for joining me today on this journey. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe. Most of my listeners are not subscribers. And if you find it useful, if you think someone would benefit from it, please share it with them. It's just good karma. Until next time, I'm Sahar Huneidi-Palmer, wishing you health, harmony, and transformation.